One of the arguments against raising rabbits in a colony that you might have heard is, well, they're gonna get sick a lot, because they're in close contact all the time, and that's just a recipe for ear mites and Pasteurella, the snuffles, etc., and for a host of other diseases. So we've been raising rabbits in a colony for a couple of years now, and we had some issues initially, but now we've not had any problems whatsoever in, I want to say, approximately 2 years. And so in this video I want to share with you what you might encounter, what we have encountered, and how we have managed to mitigate those issues, even though, as you can see here, for example, in the hutch, there are 2 litters in there right now. There is the buck, there is the doe, all happily living together. At one point, actually just before those 2 litters were born, we had 3 litters in that hutch, and nobody has gotten sick. Everyone appears to be healthy. And so let's talk about what can you encounter and what we have encountered and how we have fixed those issues. Basically, in the beginning, the first thing that we have encountered are ear mites. And when we got our first breeding trio, 1 buck, that's actually him here, he is still the OG, and 2 does, we had to deal with ear mites a lot, and they came already infected, I want to say, with ear mites. The breeder who sold us those rabbits told us that they had ear mite issues, and she said, just add a little bit of maybe coconut oil or whatever and it'll be good. And so yes, in the beginning we did have quite a few issues with ear mites. What we did is at some point we started using a product like this. It's we got it on Amazon. It's a ear mite treatment, and that has fixed the problem pretty much entirely. I mean, every so often we have a rabbit that has ear mites, and we use this for a couple of days. We just squirt it into the ears and then it's gone, and it's pretty much a non-issue, but it happens every so often. The second thing that we've dealt with in the beginning quite a bit was an upper respiratory infection from the Pasteurella bacteria. And you see them, or you can hear them, the rabbits sniff and cough basically. And so we've had that, and that took quite a bit of trial and error to figure out what was going on. And ultimately, it turned out that by keeping the rabbits that were not infected and dispatching the ones that were, made a huge difference. So we are basically ultimately bred for disease resistance, or for rabbits that are less prone to have that issue. And ever since then, we've not had any issues with Pasteurella in our colonies. And as I said before, we keep them usually all together, the buck, the doe, the kids, for several weeks. Well, the buck and doe typically stay together for the most part, and same in our other colonies. So by just selectively breeding and culling the ones that are infected and keeping the ones that appear to be immune or have a better immune system, that has been the fix for us. The only other thing we've had in terms of disease was once this buck, actually, the OG, had an infection in his skin, and we punctured it and drained it out and disinfected it, and that was pretty much it. That was the only thing, well, almost the only thing. This guy also had some fur mites at some point. Again, this was the one who already came infected with ear mites, so he's probably still as susceptible as he was before. But those were the only 3 issues we've dealt so far, and most of them, or all of it, has been really been taken care of. Now, one thing in terms of raising rabbits in a colony is manure control. Because especially from a parasitic perspective, from intestinal parasites, you want to stay on top of the bedding, meaning that we add once a week or so, and we have a separate video on that. We add fresh bedding to make sure we don't create an environment with a lot of moisture, with a lot of urine and poop and parasites, ultimately, that gives those parasites that are in the intestinal tract of those animals an environment to grow. So by keeping it dry, by keeping fresh bedding on top all the time, or at least once a week or so, you greatly reduce the chances of those parasites spreading, and that reduces the chance of infection, obviously. So those are the things that we do. One thing I forgot to mention is that we started doing, and that might help you if you deal with parasites, is feeding them pumpkin seeds. We do this every morning, just a little bit. Obviously, you don't want to overdo it, but just a little bit of pumpkin seeds that we give to the adults. They really enjoy it, they're looking forward to it every morning, and that can help with reducing the parasitic load a little bit if that's a concern in your environment. Once the grow-outs, the babies basically are big enough, we move them out on pasture, and then on pasture we have never had any issues whatsoever because we move them every day, meaning that they're not exposed to their own feces for more than a couple of hours, or maybe not more than a day. And so by keeping the environment for them clean, it's not been an issue, and keeping the environment to the breeding duo clean and the young kids, we've not had any issues whatsoever. So yes, is there maybe a greater risk of cross contamination or cross infection if you keep a lot of rabbits in the same colony all the time? There probably is, but again, if you manage the environment appropriately, if you select for those rabbits that are immune or have a better immune system, you can perfectly create an environment where you don't have to deal with any disease, and that's what we've been doing, and it's been working great so far. So if you like this video, if you like raising colony rabbits, check out some of our other videos. We have a ton of content on that subject because we really like this. We don't like cages, and maybe send this video to someone who could benefit from it. Maybe someone who is looking to raise rabbits in a colony and is worried about disease, you know. So until next time.